So you might know ARIES from his music. Recognize him from his 2-minute song breakdowns.
I'll show you how EXO Tour Life was made.
Or you might even know him from the satanic version of God's Plan.
You know how I like it when you love it on me. I've been moving calm, don't start no trouble with me. Trying to keep it peaceful is a struggle for me.
But every time I think of ARIES, I think of his unique and simplistic editing style that makes his music videos stand out from the rest. His style is a little tricky to explain. It's a mixture of cartoon elements, freeze frames, and even anime references. What's good? We're back in this thing. Do me a favor real quick, drop a like, drop a comment down below. If this video gets 1,500 likes, I'm going to be giving some of the commenters a little sneak peek of some of my preset packs that are going to be coming out real soon, and trust me, you're going to want those. They're super fire. Also, be sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I do a lot of music video breakdowns and just editing styles in general. One last thing before we get into the video, if you did want to support the channel and also grab yourself some editing assets, go to my website, BryanDelimata.com. I'm going to have it linked down below. It's the best way to support the channel, and you also get some really unique looks in return. But yeah, that's enough talking. Let's get into the video and kind of break down his style. So like I said, ARIES likes to take a lot of the default tools and editing softwares and kind of push how they're actually being used. Great example that I haven't seen in any other music video really besides ARIES is he always likes to stretch and kind of warp out text and backgrounds to make this cool effect. You can see here ARIES is masked out with the background stretched in different ways, kind of giving this like light trail look. If I go frame by frame here, you can see kind of how that looks throughout the course of everything. This one's a little bit better of an example. It's the clip stretched and then masked in different ways. He likes to use a lot of masking, a lot of like stretching, the cartoon elements that I was talking about, and freeze frames just to make his videos stand out from the rest. Like I said, almost all his videos, the set design's crazy, color schemes, and just the story that he's telling is already really good. So he doesn't need to do many crazy effects to make his video stand out. Also, ARIES is almost always credited as one of the editors or directors in his music videos alongside someone else, so it might not always be him doing the effects, but this style and theme goes throughout all of his music videos, so I'm sure he has a pretty big impact on the editing style. So this is the effect we're going to be going for, the subject masked out with the background stretched to create this cool look. You can see here is the default clip with no effect, and then I want to show you what I came up with, and then we can go over how to get that effect. So this is something that I came up with, the background stretching in different ways. So first off, you need to separate your subject from the background. You can do that by using the pen tool or using the rotoscopes tool in After Effects by right clicking and going to replace with After Effects composition. But very rarely will I see something in an ARIES music video that looks like a rotoscope versus a pen tool. It almost always looks like they use some kind of pen tool to mask out ARIES. So keeping with that theme, let's go ahead and type in crop in our effects tab and drag that over to the clip. Then I'm going to go to the pen tool and mask around ARIES. A lot of times they do kind of a rough job, which I think looks good anyways. I'm going to do a little bit more boxy. And when you need to close off, you can use the scale option over here to go out of the boundaries, or if you need to get closer, you can zoom in and hold H on your keyboard for the hand tool to click around and just move around if you want to get a little bit more precise. So that looks good for our first frame. Now we just need to make sure that the mask follows our subject all the way through. So go to mask path and click keyframe, and depending on your clip, you can go a few frames or you could go frame by frame if you want it to be really precise. So let's go ahead and do that. To get our mask to pop back up, just click on mask 1 here, and then you can move these points. As long as it's keyframed, it will go to the next frame and do everything properly. So let's do that real quick. If you want to be more precise, I'd recommend either doing the rotoscope tool or spending more time each frame. Now that you've gone through every single frame, it actually hasn't masked out anything yet. So what you're going to want to do is drag left to 100, and then it's going to black out your subject, and then go ahead and just click invert, and then it's going to mask out everything besides ARIES. And now that we have ARIES completely masked out, now we just need to reintroduce that background layer and kind of stretch it out to make it look like that. So what I'm going to do is hold Alt on my keyboard and drag it up. That's going to create a duplicate of the exact same layer, and if we click on the bottom layer and delete the crop, the bottom version of that clip is now going to be just the default clip without any masking, and then the top version is going to be the cutout of just ARIES. And then I'm going to go hold Alt on that background layer and duplicate it one more time. So then the bottom 2 layers on video track 1 and video track 2 are both just the default clip with no effects on it or anything right now. Now the next thing I want to do, if we want something similar to this where it kind of splits apart, what I'm going to do is go ahead and use the pen tool, just kind of mask out some area we want it to split. Let's go ahead and do something like this. And I noticed this works better to do this before you do go ahead and stretch out the clip. For some reason, when you stretch it out with a mask, it just looks really pixelated. So I find doing it this way is a little bit better. And then all you have to do to stretch it out is turn off this uniform scale check mark underneath motion. And now you'll be able to stretch out the width and the height. I'm just going to stretch the width a little bit so it's like a distorted version of ARIES. You're going to see just the top of his head and maybe his hand a little bit. And then we can do the bottom layer. Let's not even go ahead and mask, uncheck that uniform scale. And then I'm going to stretch out the width all the way. And now you can see we have something very similar to what they had. You could go ahead and now keyframe the individual scale and width if you wanted. So say you wanted to start off normal on the bottom and then over the course of the clip stretch out. You could do something like that. You can see how it pops out from behind him. And then this is the part where you can experiment and do a lot with it. You can keyframe the scale of the height, the width individually. You can play with different mask shapes. You can do a lot of different stuff with this. So just play around and find something that looks cool to you. Like I said, he also does a lot of stretching of text. So to do something like that, you could go to the text tool and type in ARIES, and then go inside that text tool and do the exact same thing where you keyframe just the scale or the width of something. So play around with that and get creative. The next thing I want to touch on are these cartoon-like animations he does throughout his videos. A lot of times he'll just introduce a freeze frame and have like these stars or something play. So then I came up with this version where these stars kind of just bounce around his head, and it's really simple to actually make. So for this effect, you want to decide if it's going to happen at the beginning of your clip or at the end of your clip. Depending on what you want, you could either have it hold a freeze frame at the beginning of your clip or at the end. For this case, I chose the end. So I went ahead and split the clip right where it ends. And then I'm going to actually just go ahead and take a screenshot of this frame. And then I'm just going to save that as a PNG and open up Photoshop. So now that you have this open up in Photoshop, you could also use like Microsoft Paint or any online thing that allows you to draw. As long as you can save as a PNG, you should be able to be fine. So you don't really have to use Photoshop. It's very simplistic and it's nothing in detail. So I'm going to create a new layer and we can name this star. And then I would just choose something relatively small and you can doodle whatever you want. It obviously does not have to be a star. I would actually suggest you try something unique that's different to your style. But for our case, we're just going to be doing the star. I'm going to go quick for this. You already saw my version, so you can see what you can actually get by doing it. And if you're going to be doing an outline in black, I'd suggest closing it off. That way you're going to be able to use the paint tool. So let's go ahead and add yellow. I think that looks cool. So we'll do 255 on red, 255 on green, and then 0 on blue. That way we get a perfect yellow. And I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool and just fill in these stars. And then all you have to do is just save this file itself as a PNG. We go to File, Save, Copy, and we can name the stars 1 and save it as a PNG. And then you're going to want to import that screenshot and the stars file separately and click OK. And then just drag in that screenshot right where the frame hits. So you can see it freezes right here. And then I'm going to have it hold for 10 frames and then I'm going to cut it. So now that we have that freeze frame effect, now all we have to do is add on that star, and you can have it switch frames like every 1 to 3 frames, depending on what you like. Let's go 2 frames. Cut it. If you wanted to do another drawing version of the star, you could just open that up back in Photoshop and you could go ahead, create a new layer, and then just draw somewhat close to it and do the same thing as long as you're on the second layer, and you can name it star 2. And then when you go to save it, just make sure you separate it from everything else. But actually, I'm not even going to redraw. I'm just going to use effects that are in Premiere to kind of make it move itself. But you could go ahead and draw and animate as well. And then I'm going to go 3 frames and then duplicate that layer and stretch it out. And then we can duplicate those both until it ends. That way the pattern stutters a little bit. And then I'm going to actually add on turbulence displace onto these. That way we can make it move without really having to do anything. I'm going to copy that effect to the second clip. And now we just need to change up the values of everything. That way they move a little bit. You can change the different modes as well. And then just go through and make every single one a little bit unique. That way they're all just going to look different. You can see they move around just like that. And in my original version, if we turn off the turbulence displace on it, you can see that I actually drew 2 different versions, but they're very, very similar. And I just had them alternate between those 2. And then you would get something like that where it just twinkles a little bit. Both are really cool. You can also add on any other effects that you think can move. A lot of warps will do that for you. And then if you wanted to, you could also just mask out some of them from the clip. So if you wanted a solo one, or if you just invert it, you can also remove it that way, like that. If you just wanted them on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of different things you can do to not have to redraw over and over again, but also make it look pretty unique. So keep that in mind. It's all about getting creative with the default tools that are in Photoshop and Premiere here, but you get the idea of how you can introduce different stars. You can even copy and paste them, make them bigger, scale them up, stretch them out. You could also add different glows or whatever to make the star look different. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this tutorial. If I missed something in ARIES style that you want to learn how to do, comment it down below. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and drop a comment as well as subscribe. It really does help push my content out to other people that want to see this style of content. With that being said, if you did want to support the channel even more, you can go over to my website, BryanDelimata.com, check out my packs and presets. Helps you level up your music video editing game. Also, like I said, the best way to support the channel. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. Peace.